Pahlavi texts, translated by E.W. West, Part 5, Marvels of Zoroastrianism, Sacred Books of the East, Volume 47, Oxford, The Clarendon Press, 1897, Chapter 4. About the marvelousness which is manifested from the first conference onwards till the end of the seventh conference, which occurred within the duration of 10 years, also his eminence in prophecy in the world, and acceptance of the religion by the exalted iV.1-22, as happened after the 10 years of conference. In the first 2 years, one marvel is this, which is declared, that when he was back from the first conference, he then, by the first command of the Lord and Creator, Uharmazd, recited the unique formula, Yino, in the assemblage, Ram, of kings and crops, the prophecy of his Mazda-worshipping religion, and commemoration of Uharmazd, as he chanted with a loud voice and invited mankind to the religion of Uharmazd. Just as this passage of Revelation mentions thus, thereupon the thorough inspection for this material existence of those with a sacred girdle, provided with dwellings and provided with cattle, was altogether arranged by Zarathustra, and when their announcement, the Disno, for speaking to be heard, was issued, then Zarathustra, on becoming exalted, called out unto the embodied world of righteousness, to extol righteousness and to scorn the demons. From this point, verse 4 to 8 and 11 have already been translated in Sacred Books of the East, volume 18, page 412 and 413, an illustration of the meaning of Kvetuk Das in Sasanian times and later, scorning the demons. Staomi Hashem na Ismi da Evo Yast 11, 19, 12, or the homage of the Mazda worship of Zarathustra and the ceremonial and obeisance for the archangels are the best for you, I assert, and of depreciation Ayazisni for the demons, next to kin marriage, is really the best intimation, so that from the information which is given as to the trustworthiness of a good work, the greatest are the most intimate of them, those of father and daughter, son and she who bore him, and brother and sister. This was instituted by a king, it appears. I forget the name of the guy, but they asked, you don't see anything in your book condemning what we did. And in subsequent generations, the next of kin marriage thing was part of it. But before that, it wasn't heard of. It is declared that upon those words, innumerable demon-worshipping kings and crops have rushed upon Zarathustra and strove for his death, just like this which Revelation states. It is then a number, have run away, who have sat in the vicinity of Tur's progeny, who Nusco, the arbitrator, and the shame of the brother of Tur arose, like that of a person whose shame was that they spoke of his next of kin marriage, so that he might contract it. Hunusco is an opprobrious term for the progeny of evil beings and animals, also used by a Karap when speaking of Zarathustra in chapter 3:21. This Tur was Urvaita Dong, the Tur, the scanty giver, who was like a great sovereign of that quarter, many troops, and much power were also maintained by him. And the multitude, Mar, told him they would seize the Great One from him who is little. As the name Aur-Va-Ita-Dong has not been found in the extant Avesta, its correct reading is uncertain. In Zadsparam 28, it can be read Aur-Va-Ito-De, in which De is the Pahlavi translation of Dong, who, of which Dong is the Pahlavi translation, and the whole name may mean friendly to the province, which seems suitable to this particular ruler. The manuscript appears to have Deng instead of Dong. But for the progeny of Aur-Va-Ita-Dong, the Tur, the scanty giver who spoke thus, should we for that speech destroy him, this great one, who mingles together those propitious words for us, where we are thus without doubt as to one thing therein, such as next of kin marriage, that is not necessary to contract it, it would make us ever doubtful whether it might be necessary to contract it. And Aur-Va-Ita-Dong, the Tur, the scanty giver, spoke thus, Thou shalt not destroy that man whom mine eyes have seen as the most loving-eyed of the whole embodied existence. He will attain strength, for it has not seemed to me, when thou destroyest him on this account, that wisdom has arisen for a long time, so that no rule, a hanko, of wisdom will arise in this earth, which is so counseling, hanga manig, as this one is. That is, when they destroy a man who is counseling, wisdom will not arise for a long while. Aur-Va-Ita-Dong, the Tur, the scanty giver, to his own people, also spoke thus, For me thou art a pure man who is counseling. And Zarathustra spoke thus, I shall not always be that quiet speaker, by whom that I have mentioned is the most propitious thing to be obtained, and of interfering, speaking, and managing the temper. There is a next of kin marriage, and the high priest who has contracted it is to perform the ceremonial. And from instead of by, and maybe parenthetical or ambiguous in the reference to the interfering, and perhaps celebrated instead of contracted. And here the good spiritual lordship and mightiness of glory of Zarathustra, those which are provided for commemoration of the Supreme Lord and Creator Ahura-Mazda, are manifested as a great wonder to the multitude, and there is rendered visible the great preeminence which is in him as a prophet of the creatures, which for the baseness, Nanki, of the deceitful Agash, the secret moving and deceiving natured, is the concealed control of a good disposition. Then idleness, like even the habit of fear and nature of apostasy, is an attractor of every one of the multitude, when it extends too much length, little by little too, that guide and combatant becomes a petitioner for greatness, and it is manifested through that compassion, tongue, libemai, and superior mindfulness of his, and through the glory of that stout champion there are much fame and treasure. The nobles of Aur-Va-Ita-Dong, the Tur, the ruler of the land, were angry and clamorers for Zarathustra's death, but he invited the kings and the crops to the religion of Ahura-Mazda, just as this passage of Revelation states that Zarathustra also spoke thus, Worldly righteousness, O Aur-Va-Ita-Dong, thou Tur and scanty giver, is the whole of the worship of the demons and the termination of the Mazda worship of Zarathustra. And Aur-Va-Ita-Dong, the Tur, the scanty giver, spoke thus, O Zarathustra of the Spitamas, thou shalt not attract me to this evil in which thou really art. Zarathustra also spoke thus. Ahura inquired of me thus, O Zarathustra, when thou hast come away to us, among the spiritual lords, who of the people in thy material existence was the protector of the powerful men who are warriors, that was most seeking benefit, most seeking cattle, most extensively associating, most fully supplying, that is, he gives out most things, and most hospitable, literally the most many-doored, that is, one saw the door of a prince's Kdivo treasury. I replied to him thus, Aurva ita klang, the tourer, the scanty giver. I mean dung. And the demon of the evil eye, Simbunda Hist, 28:33, and Avesta, Agasha, Vendadad 20 verses 3, 7, and 9. And he spoke in reply to me thus. Him, O Zarathustra, thou shalt attract first of the men who are warriors to thinking about, speaking about, and acting about this religion, which is Ahura and Zarathustra's. If you attract him, O Zarathustra, and he believes in it and also gives currency to this religion of thine, and sits before thee in discipleship, this that one calls discipleship of thine he shall undertake, and the religion he hears fully he shall propagate. Urubak the Dunyan. He is also most after, O Zarathustra, the first of the men who are warriors, the one most seeking benefit, most seeking cattle, most extensively associating, and most hospitable of those who have yet been born and who will henceforth be born. And if you do not attract him, O Zarathustra, and he does not believe in it, nor gives currency to this religion of thine, nor hears it, nor even sits before thee, nor would sit before thee, so that it is obvious to me that he is not attracted, thou shalt speak unto him thus, O Zarathustra, thou art a stricken suppliant for righteousness, and a producer of lamentation for the souls of Tanapuhar, sinners worthy of death. For even so it is, and for this reason he becomes worthy of death, because the existence of the religion is known to him. What I tell thee, O Au Vrvaita Dong, thou tourer and scanty giver, is that thou art a stricken suppliant for righteousness, a producer of lamentation for the souls of Tanapuhar, sinners worthy of death. One prodigy of the demons is specified. Who was the enemy of whatever sacred beings there are? A Krap, the Edvoist by name of those unsanctified, a Yastan by Ahura. Here, the Edvoist is written Pazan, but the Pahlavi form, Vedvoist, occurs in 23 and 24. And unsanctified, as in they're not worshippers of Ahura. And Ahura spoke thus, I so befriend that man, O Zarathustra, who is put forward by me over the creatures, whom thou shalt invite. Klanes, who am I, who am Ahura, because I am the righteousness opposed to harm. That is, through virtue I keep away harm from the creatures, and the archangels are opposed to harm.